Good morning, Rebbe.
Right.
It's still hot over here, so doing the best I can. Let's go over here to page Kuf Tzadi Aleph in the Indian on Tzitzit in this drush number Gimel. As we were looking through this, and it reminded me of first we got the differences between in terms of Chachma and Bina, where we're dealing with the differences between the Chachma of Chachma, the Bina the Chachma, and then over in the Bina, the Chachma, the Bina, like that. It started reminding me of the concept, which is not easy to understand. I don't think I ever understand why we have a chiluf that's coming up. So why we have the concept of I think it's the Ma de Ma and the Ben de Ma, and then the Ben de Ben and the Ma de Ben, why they switch. Now I think that as we come across here, we may be running into that, what's going on. But over here, we're talking, I guess we read the top first on page Kuf Tzadi He Aleph, and it says, Shemus HaMochen Demuach HaChasan V'Gavuras Dedas. What are the names of those Mochin, Ba'al Pi Klau Hanal? So he says like this, Amnam HaChasadim V'Gavuros D'Hiyot She'ein Mochin Mamish. Now, that's a strong statement. He says they're not really Mochin. Ella Machrin, what they are balancers, or something like that. The Kach Einam Lo Shemus Avayas, so therefore they're not going to be Avayas, V'Lecho B'Shemus Akias. That could be either one of those two. Because these two are only found in Chachma and Bina, but we're not in Chachma and Bina. Bein Osam the Abba, Bein Osam Bein Shal Ima, whether we're talking about the Gavuros of Abba or we're talking about the Gavuros of Ima, he says, there's something else. The Hu Shemus Aqua. Now we saw this with Rabbi Memran. This is the first time I've really seen it any place other than when we were working on that healing meditation. Hu Shemus Aqua. Har Nirmas B'Pasav Es HaShemayim B'Es HaAretz. Now, when you have this is really lashon of a yichud. So at any rate, but he says that's where you see this, whatever that deeper meaning of this pasuk would be, having to do with this name Aqua, which he says is actually the breakdown of how we understand the Chasad of Adas and the Gavuras of Adas. Kanizka B'Zohar B'Parshat Bereishit B'Ksav Yad. So the difference between Abba and Ima, ki Abba hu Shem Aqua, ben b'chasadim ben b'gavuros. So in the Abba side, it's always this one name Aqua. So Aqua is a gematria of what? 7. It's 11 plus it's 17. So he says, so Aqua ben b'chasadim ben b'gavuros ve'ein hefresh b'nechem ela b'betzius milui Hashem. So the only difference, I'm not sure if he shows us this, is in how you spell the name out. On the Ima side, Heim Shlosh Osius, once again, that's the same rule. There are only going to be 3 letters, which is Akko, which is gematria of 12. Levad. The difference is going to be between the Chasadim and the Gavuros. I think are going to be Mitzias a name. Okay, in the Milui. So let's see this, and because I think we're on to maybe some ground that I need to know. So beg your permission to keep going this way. Rab as Shemus HaMochen Shaladas. I'm going to talk about the Mochen Das. So he says, Dehine hein Shemus HaMochen Shalachasam Das, vehin Shemus HaMochen the Gavuras Das. That's what we're going to be talking about, the names of these Mochen. So now I'm more and more convinced that what you're actually looking when he says the names, he says this is what really the Mochen look like. So we understand the main parts of the Mochin are Chachma and Bina. They're not really like a separate set of Mochins. Interesting, because you see other thoughts different ways, but this is what he says. Now he uses a word, they're branches of Chachma and Bina. So he says, "Ubeofen shechasad the das mekabel min hachma machriya lo," and I think he means machriya means he balances it, or he brings it into the middle. V'hagavur the das mekabel min the bina machriya lo. So then he said, "L'chein hachasad v'hagavur the das b'tzad Abba." So we're singing over here is the chasad of gavur on the side of Abba. Heim enu shemo shel chavaya. Because those are the names that go with Chochmah and Bina Abba. Also, on the Ima side, because the Akias go along with Bina, her Chochmah, and her Bina. Now he said, so the two names, which refers to Chochmah and Bina, so you only see them there. So if you could actually look at them, that's what they would, they would look like. But when we go there, Heim chasad v'hagavur shaladas the mitzad Abba, v'hein chasad v'hagavur shabadas the mitzad Ima. So they're on both sides. Abba and Eva both have chasad v'das, and gavur shadas. Heim b'bechina acheres min amochim d'chachma bina. But there's some aspect, a different aspect altogether than what you see in Chachma Bina. So he says they're really branches or funnels or balancers for those to bring them into the middle. So he said, so in that pasuk, I'm just trying to think about how the middle line comes out to be the combination of Hashemayim and the Aretz. Nizma Shema Kodesh Aqua. So there is a reference to that. He doesn't expand any more on that. So he says Zohar Chodesh. So in this particular he said that this is interesting, that the Keniska Bezohar B'Parshas Bereshis B'Ksav Yad, what he calls B'Ksav Yad, the Zohar Chodesh, the new Zohar, Nikba B'Marchu Zohar Ksiv Yad, Kosav Yad. Maybe that's where it was. It was a handwritten copy. V'Sham Kubasisre on Zohar. So you see that over this over Parshas Bereshis, Ma'amar Hashem Aqua. Well, there's a place where you see Aqua over there. V'Achila sheyesh bein Muach Hadas the Mitzad Abba the bein Muach Hadas the Mitzad Ima, who shehamuach shel the Das the Mitzad Abba hu Shem Aqua. Heim b'chasadim shel the das the b'tzad Abba. Heim Abba heim sham shem shel Aqua. Okay, I'm sorry. They're the name Aqua. V'hein ha'gevurus shel the das the b'tzad Abba, and heim shem shel Aqua also. So Abba is going to be Aquas. V'achidech v'chashine shebein ha'chasadim the das the b'tzad Abba, the bein ha'gevurus the das the b'tzad Abba. Now he's not going through how we spell out aqua, but he says the difference in the way you spell it really tells you the difference between the chasadim and the gevurus, the das and the side of Abba. So even though that they're both the same name, so the different ways to spell aqua. That seems like a deeper subject, so we're moving along. How about them? Which is once again the gematria of 12. So that's only 3 of the names. And it's missing the final hey. So the difference between the chasadim and the das and the side of Ima, the gevurus the data b'tzad Ima who, shehem chasadim the das the b'tzad Ima, v'hen the gevurus the data b'tzad Ima chem shem aku. Saying it again, ak yesh chilek v'shinui ben shneichem the gabi midu v'shem aku. Be'eza oifen seder meluam. But it doesn't bring us that what it is. He just says that maybe for another time. Now let's look at the next one because the plot gets thicker, I think, a little bit here. And he says, we're going to say, well, beer should call more kolul, that every more kolul badalid mochim pratim. Every more has four mochim. So you thought there was four mochim. Now you could turn out there's going to be more. So v'hinei kasher nizdavgu abba be'iba l'chotzira me'elach mochim shalachem tipos. So what happens as a result of the yichud that takes place between Abba Be'ima, and particularly we see this like at the Kriya Shema. He says he bring those tipos kadesh yichud mochem elzas, and therefore, in other words, they need a yichud in order to be able to bring the mochem elzas. This arvu yachad kula b'soch yisod shel ima. So all of them now gathered together in the yisod of ima, shuhan rechem shalom. So that's another point. As I said, he says, I guess that would be right. So in her rechem is the place of her yisod. V'al derech masha bi'arno, so this goes according to what we've explained, be'inyan ivor rishon dezah, where we talk over there about the inyan of the first ivor of zah. The shal bechinas tlas klilim etlas. Sharmarnu shenikver shem akia, so that we said like this. What is called name Akia besod arba bate tefillin shal rosh. So, for example, in the name Akia really refers, there are four letters there, and each one of them refers one of the bottom of the tefillin of the head. Ubiarno ubihatam, that we explained over there, is who lefi shechoyu sheva bechinan shal malachim. There were 7 different aspects of the malachim. And they all came together. Now I think you're talking about the tikkun now. At the time of Ivor Rishon, which is the beginning of the tikkun, so they all come together. All of these 7 broken pieces, or something like that. The nimsa, and it comes out like this: shehem shlosh pamim sheva, that you have 3 times 7. Shehem kaf aleph, which is 21. What's 21? Communion akia. So also we see that in this Ivor, Shal Mochim Choyakach, it was like this. That we find that these 4 Mochim are all combined into each other. Well, there and on the same way, the other 3 mochim. I don't know what he meant by the other 3 mochim. I thought he just said it, but let's find out. Now, one more here. V'nimsaki heim arba mochim. So it comes out there actually 4 mochim here. Kol echad kolul arba mochim acherim. So each one of the mochim has another 4 mochim. Heim shisha also. So if you count 4 times 4, 16. Kol arba b'mochim akolulim b'moch rishon. Okay, so we're over the top here, and it's we'll read just a bit of the bottom. Sha'arba b'mochim the pratim. Sheyesh b'chochma hokolelis, that is found in chochma. Let's say, for example, nikroim kulu b'shem chochma. V'kein arbas hamochin hapratim sheyesh b'bina hokolelis nikroim b'shem bina. V'kein kol ha'arba b'mochin hapratim, so that we see that all of the 4 mochin. Sheyesh b'chasad d'dasa koilel. Nikwas kula b'shem chasad d'dasa kola v'kein arba mochan hapratim sheyesh b'gavur d'dasa kola kulam nikwas b'shem gavuras d'dasa kola. So he said v'kol ma sheshanino ato sheyesh arba mochan makolalim. So what we say, everything we say here, shesh asa, there's 14 mochin, 16 mochin. Pratim hu b'mochim shachazam mekabel b'tzad Abba. So here we're talking about, this is what it looks like. What's coming into Abba is getting 16. V'chein al derek zerah gam arba mochim shachazam mekabel b'tzad Ima. Also, he's getting 16 mochim that are coming from her. Kol echad mechem ischalu the arba mochim pratim. Leficha v'gam mochin betzad ima mispratim l'shisha asa mochim. So therefore, everything is divided into 16 mochim. Nimsa sheyesh lezecha b'sheish asa mochim betzad abba. So it comes out that Zah has 16 on Abba's side. B'sheish asa mochim betzad ima. So you put them together. What do you get? Hem shlosh v'shnayim, the shlosh v'shnayim. So that makes 32. We've heard that number before. 32 mochim shemekabel Zah that Zah receives. I might have messed that up. Did I mess that up? I messed it up because I started reading the Tiv. Okay, well, nothing really lost. Let's go back to number. We'll read the Tiv now again on the beer of Shakal Mul Kolo Badalad Mochim Pratin. So now we're going to number Ayin Dalad, which is the bottom. Actually, it's at the top of page Kuf Tzadi Gimel. And this is where we'll read here. He said, "V'kasher yesh lachamshik as a mochen the gadol the zer anpin." So now you're bringing the mochen the gadol into zer anpin. As Abba ve'ima mizdabdim b'yachad, they make a yichud. V'Abba Moshe machamochen shadocha b'derek adas shalom. So how is in fact that that Abba is mamshech his mochen through the das, and mislavshin the mochen b'petipos, but they also become drops at that point as they move into this das. V'chatipos yordos mechadas shal Abba the yisodos. So then they go from the das of Abba into his yisod. V'Abba noisen as the tipos miyisoda the yisoda shehem amochen dezah. So let me say this again because I thought he would say something different. Abba, what does he do? He places the tipos from his yisod into her yisod, which are the mochim for Zah. So now the two yisodas are together. So also she pulls down her mochim, derek adas shalom, from her das, mislavshim mochim betipos, and her mochim go into the drops as well. V'chatipos yordas mechadas the ima the yisoda. The tipos go down from das into her yisod. And at the time of the yichud, she's able to elevate the tipos to man. So that's important. You should understand that what she's doing, she's always percolating, so to speak, going upwards. Even if they're coming from das into zeranpin, or they're coming from, here in this case is Bina going into her das and then into zeranpin, but it's always a percolating kind of thing where she's always doing man. So it's the bottom reaching up from the top. So they're all mixing over here. So he says like this. So if you're looking at the Yesod of Ima, in there you have these two tipos shnei mini amochim, who are rechem shal Ima. Understand that where this is taking place, it's taking place in her womb. Now the second time that there's an Ivra, it's like the first Seder. The Zashahu Zaman Katnusa, which is the time when he was in the cotton. At the first time. Now this is where I think I have a disagreement with what he says. It doesn't seem right to me. I'll ask your opinion. He said, "Be'ivra Rishon Azah Yeshlo Rak Sheish Sfiros Shem Chesed Gevurah Teferes Netzachod Yisod." So that's at the time of Eber, he's like that. If he Yosef Be'eber, and since it's in that situation in the womb, Humakufel, it doubles over Be'ofen Shachachagad Shelo Chem Al Gabe Anai. Now I think it's the other way around. I think it's a nine on top of the Chagad. It makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
But that's what he says. You see this sometimes. I don't know what happened here. Okay, so we've heard this is 3 inside of 3. Behind the Shahat Tlas Shehem Chagat, and he says that the 3, which are Chagat, Mukufalim, they're doubled over Alat Tlas Shehem Anai. Once again, Al means it's on top of it. And I don't think that's right. I think it's the other way around. That it unfolds for the Nai is on top of the Chagat. But That's what this tip said. Shelo arba osia shall shame akia rumazim arba bate tefillin shall rosh. Now, there's no tie up with this into any other ideas. He just says that's a fact. Is that I don't know if we've seen this other places, and I know we're going to, with God's help, we'll get over to tefillin and we'll see this better. So he just says it. Shahatam ifnei ma bihiyos hazah be'iver hu nikra b'shem ekia. So the reason why it's called ekia when it's in Iver state, he says is like this: B'shaviras hakedim b'meser shevach hamalachim and niskarim b'sof parshas v'yishalach. So he says that you have the death of the kings. V'hein keneged shevas spiros chesed gevurah teferes netzach hod yisod u'malchus. So that's the zat. V'zel lashon the Rab l'kamon. And the Rab's going to talk about this later. V'ha'inyan hu ki b'hiyos b'sod the Iver. Ha'yichav zecha b'sod shlosh kavin levad. Now that's interesting. So you see that there is a chaganai there. So it's 3 lines. Tlas go tlas. And they're in the situation where they're folded. Now here's another different way of saying it. We've always been saying that it's a pasil labar. And here he says it's a crown. Kaniska. So, okay, I just throw that to you and see what you think. But at any rate, if you count 6 plus 1, you get 7. And each one of the 7, now let's see how we're saying it, each column has 7 within it. So, which gives you the number kaf aleph, and you can reason for me. So since each kav has all the other 3 columns, or the other 2 columns within it, shlosh pamim sheva. So this gives you 3 times 7, which is 21. V'shlosh pamim sheva him gematria called 21. Excuse me, kaf aleph on this karm. Excuse me. The 21 that we're mentioning here as a reference is akia. And let's go on. So that's the reason why it's called Ekia at that stage. It's called Ekia because of the 3 times 7s. So that whole thing was a leap too, to be able to say that each one of the columns is composed of all the other spheros. So then in that case, in the case of the first region called Echem Sheva Nichlal B'Kol Shlosh Kavim, that's what we said before. Shehem Esrim Be'echod Communion Shem Ekia. Kain Al Yado Al Zu Haderek Haya Be'ivach Be'Chasheni Shuhu L'Tzorach HaMochen Degadlus for who. So this is what the same thing happens there is the same thing happening here. Shebe'ivach Hasheni Be'Mochen Degadlin Dechlala Be'Nisarba Arbach Be'Mochen Degadlus Ela Be'Ela, because here what we're seeing here in the Iber Sheni is that you're seeing the Mochen of godless are all incorporated one in the other. And each one of them also the rest. So this is a mix, let's say like this. Just take Chochmah. It has all the other mochim in it, but the chem besochim muach hachachma levado yesh arba mochim. One is chachma, the chachma. Then you have the bina, the chachma, and there's the chazan, the das, the chachma, the gevor, the das, the chachma. V'chein that shlosha mochim macherim. Also the other 3. What other 3 is he talking about? Shehem muach bina, a muach chazan, the das. That's what he's talking about. The other 3 mochim. Yesh b'kol echa b'chem arba b'mochen b'fnei shekol echa min ha'mochen nichlol v'nisarve v'alkulam ba'ofen zeh mucha bina misarve v'nichlol b'kulam v'chaviyesh b'cha b'atva arba mochen v'hem. He says chachma the bina b'bina the bina chasad the das the bina gevurah the das the bina v'chein mucha sad the das nichlol v'nisarve b'kulam. So you can keep going down the line and they all have it, and he's going to read it out. V'yeshbo arba mochen b'derek zeh chachma the chasad the das bina the chasad the das chasad the chasad the das and gevurah the chasad the das v'chein mucha gevurah the das Gam kul nichlal minis arad bakulam v'yesh b'cha b'atzmo arba mochim v'chem. We're going to read it out. Hachma the Gevurus the Daza, Binda the Gevurus the Das, Chasada the Gevurus the Daza, Gevurus the Das. V'nimstem mochim heim arba, shehem Chachma Bina, Chasada Das, Gevurus the Das. Because Echem arba, Rabomochim Hachlalim, Kululim, Bo Pratos, Od arba mochim pratis. So he wants to say this combination that we said about in Eva Rishon, which is 3 times 7, because every one of them has every one of them in them, or all the seven pieces. They said the same thing happens in the Eva Sheni, but there you're talking about the Mochin the godless, and there's 4 times 4. So let me see if I could just do a little bit more. He says, שיש בכך כל הנקראים כולו בשם חוכמה, וכן 4 מוחין הפרטים שיש בבינה, הכלול הנקראים כולו בשם בינה, וכן כל 4 מוחין הפרטים שיש בחסדת הדס הכולל נקראים כולם בשם חסדת הדס הכולל, וכן 4 מוחין הפרטים שיש בגבורת הדס הכולל, כולם נקראים בשם גבורת הדס הכולל. So a little bit more of a call Masha Shanida Ata Sheesh Arba Mochan Akoladim Sheesh Ezri Mochim Paratim Fu B'Mocha Shechazam Mekaba B'Tzad Abba. Now you understand what's coming from Abba. Vein Al Devik Zera Gam Arba B'Mocha Shechazam Mekaba B'Tzad Ima Call Er Bechem Mischala the Arba Mocha Paratim the Vicha B'Gam Mocha B'Tzad Ima and this Paratim the Shisha also Mochim, so she also has 16 Mochim like that. This is the Zechah B'Sheish Ezra Mochim B'Tzad Abba Sheish Ezra Mochim B'Tzad Ima V'Yachad Heim Shlosha B'Shnayim Mochim Sheb'Kabel Chazal that Zav gets. I guess that's it for today. What time are we going to? What time are we going to? Oops, I guess that was it. Okay.